microphone over to the staff of Homewood Suites and Elements by the Odyssey.
Hi everybody, thank you for coming. I am Catalina, and right here is my GM from Homewood, Andrea, with the Director of Sales, Daryl, and Nick, who is the best at what he's doing here at Element. Thank you for coming, and we are happy to have you here and be your partner for the remaining year, first of many, and hopefully more of you to join us. As of January 1st, the hotel partnered with Element, so we now provide rooms and meeting space. So if you have any vendors coming in and you have people coming out of town, we will be able to provide you with the rooms for a good rate. So I think this will be me, stop talking. But you guys enjoy everything and have a good day, and thank you for being part of our community here.
And then now I am going to hand it over to Orland Park Area Chamber of Commerce President Dan McMillan.
Thank you. Just want to say a few words and welcome everybody here. It's a big week for Orland Park because and I'm sorry Jim Dodge is not here, Mayor Dodge, but I wanted to say he's the only mayor that gained an Amazon store this week, and 11 other municipalities lost Amazon stores. So it's a win-win for Orland Park, but it tells us just that experience. And I know, Dean, I know you went through hell trying to go, keep everything in order and making sure that everybody understood what we were getting and what's happening, because it's something so different. But what that's going to do, maybe Orland Park was already on the map, but last week we were in everything from the Wall Street Journal to the New York Times and everything in between. And even I was getting calls to make statements regarding how we looked at it. And what we look at is, it's such a positive. In 2 years, when you look at that corner and the activity and the improvement, how many people have always wanted to, coming up to Ravinia, and you can't get over easily to, you got to go through another traffic light, you can't get easily over to LaGrange Road. Now you're going to be able to. So there's a lot of good things happening in Orland Park. It's going to springboard off of this, so I'm excited about that. But I'm really excited that I got my diploma today for the Citizens Academy. So I want to thank everyone for the Oscar. It was really it was an ordeal, but I went to the classes, and now I'm a true citizen of Orland Park. So we want to thank everybody for coming out today. I hope everyone is going to strongly consider, if your schedule allows it, and hopefully it will, next Thursday, the 5th, we will be having our installation with the new officers and all that other kind of stuff. It's a great networking event. We're going to have it at Porsche Orland Park. We're going to raffle off a new Porsche. Just kidding. But one of these years, when we have such a good year, we'll be able to do that. We're not quite ready, but it's going to be a great event. We've got Francesca's and Vinny's doing the food. We've got wine from Cooper's Hawk. So we hope the senator's going to be there. Both of you are going to be there next Thursday to welcome in the new officers and just celebrate Orland Park and what we do, because we're still trying to find, we always have such room for improvement. And I know in last year in my speech I said, what do you want us to do? What do you want us to be as a chamber so that we can help most important thing we are is an advocate for the businesses of Orland Park and the area. So the more feedback we get from you and what we can do is really appreciated. So we're going to look forward to seeing everyone a week from tomorrow. That'll be on February 5th it'll be fun. That's all I can say. It'll be fun. It'll be amusing. You'll network. Dean will tell some jokes. I think you're working something up, aren't you? So it's going to be great. Of course, Nabia will have to write them for you, but that's okay. So anyway, I want to welcome everyone. I'll get off the stage so we can get closer to our main events, and the mayor will be here. Is that true? The mayor will be here so we can congratulate him on being 1-0 with Amazon. Thank you.
And then next up, I am going to turn it over to a couple of our ambassadors, Cindy Drew and Megan Tempinski. Can you come on up?
Hello, everyone, and welcome. And we would like to actually ask all of our ambassadors that are here to stand up. Again. On behalf of Megan and I, we wanted to just share a little bit about the ambassadors group. And I like to think that we kind of are the little bit of the face of the chamber. We attend all of the ribbon cuttings to really support our members, really try to connect members to members and build collaborative relationships. We try to do some pop-ins to our members just to kind of see if you have any questions. And really what we want to do is encourage participation. The more you participate, the more you're going to really get out of the chamber. And not only is there the ambassadors committee, but there's other committees. We've got marketing, we have the golf committee, special events, I don't know if I'm covering them all. And so we ask you, if there's something that you think interests you, please ask and join. I think you're going to get a whole lot out of it. And if we work together, we're going to build a greater chamber than we already have right now. But what we want to do is also welcome one of our newest ambassadors officially is from Dave & Buster's, Taylor Doty. And then, like I said, we encourage everyone, if there's something that you're interested in terms of being a committee member, we also have our own membership committee as well. Lots of different things to get involved in. Please either see myself, Megan, or Sarah afterward. We would be happy to answer any questions that you might have. So thank you and welcome.
Alrighty, so before I give my spiel, you all received a colored Post-it when you arrived today and checked in. And those Post-its resemble the table color that you're sitting at. So I have to ask, you guys should have met brand new people. Raise your hand today if you did meet new people. Yay, it worked! That's what networking is all about, right? So we just wanted to provide that opportunity. Usually, sometimes we do icebreakers, but because our monthly membership meetings have continued to grow and because we want to be cognizant of your time and your busy schedules, we wanted to at least shake things up and get people to sit at different places so then you guys were able to meet some new businesses in our community. So, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. It's wonderful to see so many of you here on this chilly January day. I want to begin by thanking our hosts, Homewood Suites and Elements by the Odyssey, for providing such a beautiful space for our monthly membership meeting. And I also want to give a big thank you to Paychecks for generously sponsoring today's lunch in the back. So thank you, Paychecks. And they do have some really cool swag at the table, as well as some swag in the back. And then there are some other materials outside on the table near the check-in. So if you want to take a look at anything out there too before you leave today, definitely take any material that you may be of interest about. All right, so my name is Sarah Steshukevich. I'm the CEO of the Orland Park Area Chamber of Commerce, and we are so incredibly grateful to have State Representative Mary Gill and State Senator Bill Cunningham with us today. Their willingness to spend time with our members, share what's happening in Springfield, and answer your questions speaks volumes about their commitment to transparency and accessibility. As CEO of the Chamber, that transparency is something I do take seriously. It's our responsibility to make sure you have the information, the resources, and the connections that are truly useful to you, are helpful, and are valuable to your business. And that brings me to this year's theme, which is value. Every program, every speaker, every event we host this year is designed with that word in mind. We've curated a lineup of speakers for our MMMs who will bring insight across a wide range of topics that matter to all industries, not just a select few. We want you to come to our events because you're excited, because you know what to expect, and because you walk out feeling refreshed and motivated and extremely confident that your time was well spent. Our goal is never for chamber functions to feel like an obligation. Before we turn things over to our guest speakers, I want to highlight a few important events that are coming up fairly quickly. As Dan McMillan mentioned, we have our installation and award ceremony next week, February 5th. It will take place at Porsche Orland Park from 6 p.m. to 9:30. This is one of our signature events and a fantastic networking opportunity. We'll welcome our new Chamber Board leadership that will be sworn in by the Mayor of Orland Park, Mayor Jim Dodge. And we'll also be presenting several awards that night. But I do ask for your help. And on the back table, as well as at the check-in, and I also have one with me, this is a sheet with a QR code. We are asking for your help in picking the award winners. So like Business of the Year, Nonprofit of the Year. So if you could scan that QR code and give your feedback as to a business that you have in mind that should really win an award, please let us know. We want your input. Next, on Thursday, March 19th, we'll host the annual Orland Women's Network Luncheon at Chicago Gaelic Park from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Yeah. Woo-hoo! This event is always a highlight. Great networking, extremely great energy, as you can tell, and a very inspiring speaker is something we always have. This year, we will have Dr. Nakia Hall. She will be presenting Drop the Remix, an energetic and empowering message about elevating yourself without reinventing yourself. Attendees always leave feeling uplifted and connected, and again, it's just something really good for professional women just to come together and empower one another. And one more important reminder, essays for the National Civics Bee are due next week on February 3rd. If you know a middle school student, please encourage them to participate. This is an incredible opportunity for them to showcase their civics knowledge, compete at the local bee on May 2nd at Orland Junior High, and potentially advance to the state and national competitions. Plus, by the way, we are celebrating America 250, so this all kind of connects together. Students can earn trophies, cash prizes, and for the national winner, a life-changing $100,000. Yeah, put that towards college. So if you have any questions about the Civics Bee, please come and see me. I'm more than happy to discuss the information further with you. Also out there, I just want to let you know we do have the February 2026 calendar of events now available, so if you want to grab a copy, definitely take one. And then on the back, that is our next monthly membership meeting, which will be held here at the same time. Different food sponsor, so if you're at all interested in sponsoring lunch, please let us know. We would definitely add you onto the calendar. And next month's speaker is going to be Jorge Norick of Chicago Southland Chamber, and he will be talking about Google Business Profile Optimization. So really trying to use Google to your business's best ability. And with that, I believe we're ready to begin. Thank you again for being here. Thank you for your engagement, and thank you for your commitment for strengthening our business community. It is now my pleasure to introduce our speakers, State Representative Mary Gill and State Senator Bill Cunningham. There you go. You're welcome.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having us today. I'm so happy to be here. My name is Mary Gill. I'm the state representative for the 35th District, which includes some of this wonderful place called Orland. And I'm so happy to represent. A little bit about myself is I was a school teacher. I taught special education for a couple years before having my babies, who I like to call the Gillbillies, because we live up to that, I just want you to know. But I was so grateful to be able to raise my kids, but also be the executive director of the Mount Greenwood Business Association, which is a chamber of commerce as well. So I did that for 10 years. So not only do I want to thank Sarah and everybody involved, but you guys are all the heart and soul of the neighborhood. So I want to thank all of you. I know how hard you all work, and it's much appreciated. But running the chamber, it was the coolest thing, because I got to meet all the business owners, learn their backgrounds, all of those things, right? And then I got to work with our wonderful local officials to create events and try to connect our residents to our businesses, and networking is so important, all of those things. I have such a passion for it, and when the appointment for the state rep came on, I just want to help at a larger level, and I was so grateful that I had the opportunity to do that. And now, in the position that I am, being able to help wherever I can, that's all I want. That's all we want to do, always. We just want to help. And I'm proud to sit on the Small Business Committee in Springfield, and I welcome all of you, please, to let me know if there is legislation, excuse me, on how we can help, because I want to. And I want to make life easier for you, because I know how hard it is running your businesses and being involved in everything else also. So if there's anything that we can ever do to help, please, our doors are always open. And it was so wonderful when Sarah reached out to me when I first came in, and we sat in your schoolhouse, and I love that schoolhouse. I want you to know, learning the background. And I feel like we've really solved some problems of ourselves sitting in that. Yeah, we have. And it has been so great to connect and learn the businesses here in Orland, because I ran the business association in Chicago, where I live in Mount Greenwood. And it's just so important. You're all so important. And so I'm so happy to be here and answer any questions and help however I can. And I'm going to turn it over to Senator Cunningham, because now we're back in session. So we're heading to Springfield. We were there. I was there last week, and now we're there for till the end of May. So this is when stuff happens for us in Springfield. So I'm going to turn it over to Senator Cunningham to talk about that.
Thanks, Mary. Just to reiterate what Mary said, our district kind of covers the northern part of Orland Township, everything north of 143rd and 147th. But we like to think we represent all of Orland Park, so if there is an issue that comes up that you think we can help you with, please reach out to us and let us know. As Mary mentioned, we stay in close communication with Sarah, but we want to hear from you. You might have very specific issues that come up related to the industry you work in, and we want to be your representatives in Springfield, so never hesitate to reach out to us. Just can't state that too much. As Mary mentioned, we just started our new session. Our main spring session runs between January and May 31st, so we're just at the beginning of that right now. We're in the second year of a General Assembly. This is, I believe, the 103rd General Assembly in the state of Illinois. And so there are 2-year periods where, we're seated in Springfield. The second year of the General Assembly is usually one where not as much happens. Right now, there's a primary election in March, so our calendar is kind of light in the early part of the spring session, because some of our colleagues are out campaigning. And we'll start to be in Springfield and really dive into stuff really as we get past that in the middle of March. As I said, I don't think, compared to some of the recent years, that this is going to be an extremely active session this year in Springfield. Part of that is because, and this is always true to a certain extent, but one of the things we spend the most time on is the state budget. Okay, and this year it's going to be more difficult than ever because of some of the federal cuts. And we're not sure what exactly those look like. It's very much a changing target, and when exactly they will kick in. But we're looking at pretty substantial cuts, primarily to the Medicaid funding we get from the federal government. And anyone who works in the healthcare sector knows about that and how that could be a real problem. Just for general information, the Medicaid makes up a big portion of the state budget. It's a shared program that we fund, the state funds and the feds fund, and the state, we spend about $10 billion a year on Medicaid, which is basically a health insurance program for people who don't have health insurance, and for people with disabilities and seniors. And the feds match the money we spend, most of the money we spend. So we're thinking somewhere around $2 billion of that can go away. So figuring out how we're gonna make up for that in our state budget is sort of occupying all of our minds and occupy a lot of our time, which is, I think, one of the reasons why a lot of the other legislative agenda might be a little bit light. There are a handful of things that I know will be on the docket that we'll be working on. Some of them are directly related to business development. Obviously, much of it isn't. I see Mayor Dodge just came into the room. I talked to him a few months back about an issue that I've been working on a lot that has really been getting a lot of attention lately, and that's data centers. There's both a lot of good and a lot of bad that we've seen come from this, but we're seeing more and more of these pop up around northern Illinois. They put a lot of people to work. They pay a lot of property taxes, which is one of the reasons why a lot of municipalities, including Orland Park, are actively engaged right now in trying to develop data centers, because that's one of the prime things. They pay higher property tax, helps hold the line than everyone else's. But there's also a lot of jobs that go along with that too. We have to balance it though, because they use a ton of electricity. And we're worried, when the demand for a product goes up, so does the price. So we're worried about how that affects ordinary residential consumers and businesses. So those are things, I think that's an issue we'll be dealing with a lot in Springfield, and it's a really tough one because of both the negative and positive aspects of it I just mentioned. I'm trying to think of some of the other issues that will be front and center. I know one on a business development side is a new idea that we've kind of stuck our toe into that might expand, and that is an economic development strategy built around what is called STAR bonds. STAR stands for sales tax, I forget what the A is for. Sales tax and revenue bonds. So the way that works, and we've piloted this downstate, and there's some talk of having it come to Cook County. Right now, the state law does not allow for it in Cook County. But it would essentially be a business development tool for local municipalities that works a little bit like the way TIFs work. Some of you know how that TIF works. That involves property taxes, creating an incremental fund from the property taxes to help fund business development. This would essentially do the same thing with sales tax. So you could have a sales tax district, and a certain amount of sales tax is collected there by the state, by local municipalities. A STAR bonds would say any growth in that that sales tax revenue, the incremental growth, can be captured and reinvested back into the STAR bonds district. So, as I said, an economic development strategy that we're considering now in Springfield, and would likely be a tool that we would hand over to counties, to local municipalities, as another way to try to attract businesses and reinvest in existing businesses. I'm trying to think, Mary, those are kind of the, I'm sure I'm forgetting things.
It's also sort of hard because our bills technically aren't due filed for another 2 weeks, so we don't actually know what's out there quite yet. We've heard about some, but not all of the things coming up yet this session, because our filing deadline is next Friday. So after next Friday, we will hear, trust me, we will hear about all the bills that are coming up this session.
Yep. So we open up to any questions, Sarah, if that's appropriate.
It's interesting that Illinois at this point seems to feel that taxing things are the revenue generator for the state. Illinois is the first state in the United States to ever have a $100 billion deficit in their pension plan. Now, there are states that are 2 and 3 times our size, yet we owe more money to the employees of this state and have guaranteed even further money for them in the future. And yet we still see taxes upon taxes never going to the pensions, always to more and bigger programs. Do you have an idea of how the business community will be ultimately affected
Sure.
by
So,
all of these taxes that are not really addressing the issues for the very employees the state employs?
yeah.
It
So,
seems like
yeah.
there's a disconnect there.
Sure. So you are right. Illinois does have a large pension debt, larger than other states, despite having those other states having pension programs too that are every bit as generous as Illinois'. Why is that? Because for literally 100 years, Illinois underfunded the pensions. The employees paid into it, the government was supposed to pay their share, didn't do it. And I say literally 100 years, I love telling the story. When we passed a pension reform bill several years ago, one of our staff members was researching the issue, and he found a letter that was written by it was like called the Illinois Pension Advisory Board. He found a letter that was written to the governor and the legislative leaders saying, you know, you're starting to run up a debt, you're not meeting your obligations on these pension funds, worried about the long-term solvency of it, you need to do something about it. That letter was written in 1917, okay? And the state did nothing about it until the 1990s, when Governor Edgar was governor, passed something that was called the pension ramp bill, which requires us to step up payments every year to pay off that old debt. So, and when they passed that in 1995, I believe, the first payment wasn't due until 2010. So they even backed that up 15 years, okay? So that's why that big deficit's there. It now, and has, we pay a large amount, crowd out funding for other programs to pay off that debt. In 2011, a new pension system went in place for employees. So any employee who started with the state or any local municipality after January 1st, 2011, they get what's called a Tier 2 pension, which is much less generous than the Tier 1 pension. So less generous that the state is about, in the next year or two, is going to come out of compliance with the federal Social Security law, because with some employees, the benefits will be less generous than Social Security. So cutting pension benefits for all the, and now, so that's 15 years. The majority of employees for the state right now are Tier 2 annuitants, we call them. They're getting a Tier 2 pension, not a Tier 1 pension. So what that's done is, it's still a problem, but it has stabilized the problem. Right now, and for about the last 5 years, it used to be pensions gobbled up. Like when I first started, I got sworn in 2011, about 8% of the state budget went to pay off pensions. Now it's at 20%. It has stayed at 20% for about the last 5 or 6 years. It's stabilized. It's 20% of the money we spend. It's scheduled to be like that until the year 2047. That's when all the debt is paid off. And I would love to be a member of the General Assembly in 2027, because our pension payment's gonna go from like 40 billion to 1.5 billion from one year to the next. There's gonna be a lot of money to spend. Or hopefully give back to the taxpayers. But that's an entirely different story. So this is a big problem. There's no doubt about it. A lot of people don't realize that back in 2010, before I was in the General Assembly, this Tier 2 thing was passed, which stopped the bleeding, so to speak, but we still have to pay off that debt, that $100 billion you're talking about. And and we're doing that, but it crowds out a lot of other stuff.
Except there's one problem.
Mm-hmm.
The debt continues to grow. It's not shrinking. In fact, last year alone, you added $18 billion to the deficit. So if the deficit continues to grow, it doesn't matter what you do on payment in the future.
So here's what happens.
The interest is greater than on your payments.
So remember what I was saying about the tier 1 and tier 2? So those lines cross. And once those lines cross and your annuitants start to be tier 2 annuitants, the costs come down. And that's why the ramp is scheduled in 2047 to hit that. That's when the debt will be paid off and will drop off because the new costs are so much lower. And in fact, the tier 2 annuitants are helping to subsidize the tier 1 pensions. Okay, so that's where the numbers cross. When you have more, not only tier 2 employees, but tier 2 annuitants. And that's what starts to happen down the line.
But by 2047, the deficit will be 300
No, by then, it goes away. Because the new pension, we could spend 3 hours talking about this, but by then, the new pension benefits, again, current state employees arguably have retired, and it could get us in trouble. Like the federal government at some point could say, you got a problem, you got to enroll all these people in Social Security. Remember, when you're in a pension, you don't get Social Security. So right now, there are arguably, depending on their salary, there are state employees who are scheduled to get retirement benefits that are less than Social Security, okay? So it's very complicated. There's a lot of spin put out there by a lot of groups that don't necessarily give you the whole picture because there's a lot of good talking points that go along with it. But I've spent 15 years in the General Assembly working on this. It's still bad, but it is going to get, the badness has stabilized, and it is going to get better. I will be long gone when it is better, but that's the trajectory we're on.
Lucas?
So as you know, recently in the news, the Chicago Bears Stadium has been kind of, of course, a lot of controversy, a lot of different talking points here and there. Did you guys have any particular perspective as far as how you feel about the topic, or what particular deals you'd be willing to make for the Bears, whether it be infrastructure stabilization or a property tax stabilization and so on?
I'll also let Senator Cunningham talk about this, but this was spoken about last week when we were in Springfield. I know it will be a topic. I'm not totally sure how big of a topic, right? I mean, I understand that this is a big deal. I mean, Bears fans are real, trust me, I've heard from them all, right? But I think, I was also talking to Senator Cunningham, a lot of my colleagues, when we were speaking about this, you know, had a lot to say, right? Like our Southern colleagues, like, why would they vote for this when this doesn't have anything to do with them? I think this is going to be a lot more complicated of a vote than people think, because we're here in Chicago and we care, right? Like, we really do care. Not a lot of our colleagues, not everyone, they care, but you know what I mean? Like, it's not, what's it gonna do for their constituents down in other parts of Illinois? And then on top of that, with cuts happening and us not being sure what the federal cuts, what the cuts look like, a lot of our colleagues are like, well, what about the SNAP? We're worried about the Bears when there's so many other things in the state too. Not minimizing the Bears, because I care, you know. But I know Senator Cunningham can talk more to this, but that's sort of the chatter I got last week. I do think we will vote on something. We don't know what that looks like. They also threw everything that you just said to us with, are they going to Indiana? Are they going to Arlington Heights? Are they staying here, right? That's all still out there. At least no one's filled me in if there's something that's out there, but I know Bill probably can talk to it.
Yeah, so I worked on behalf of the Senate Democratic Caucus on this issue. Mary said it well, you know, it's a question of priorities. Certainly want to see the Bears stay in Illinois. There are probably ways to do that without handing over a gigantic subsidy to them. Those days are pretty much gone. You know, you can't, you know, all our constituents are Bears fans, but none of them are telling us, yeah, hand them a couple $100 million or $1 billion to get them to stay. So the question is, can we construct something that doesn't involve a state subsidy, but makes it easier for them to do business here? Their proposal that they have now for Arlington Heights is built around this idea of a pilot. Pilot is an acronym standing for payment in lieu of taxes. It's an economic development tool a lot of other states use, we do not. And the way it works, it's complicated, but the basic gist of it is you take a property, in this case it would be what the Bears proposal is, the Arlington Park property, freeze the property taxes at their current level, and then they would negotiate a side deal, a payment in lieu of those taxes, with the local taxing bodies, the Village of Arlington Heights, the school districts, the county, the Water Reclamation District. That is potentially doable because it doesn't cost the state any money, okay? So we could probably get to something like that. That actually could be an economic development tool for all sorts of businesses, not just for the Bears. The Bears also haven't asked for about $850 million in infrastructure improvements. Now we can do some of those things. You know, if a factory or a warehouse builds a new place on the side of I-57, in a cornfield, the Illinois Department of Transportation will come in and build entry and exit ramps. We do that, to help a business. That's normal. The work we're doing on I-80 right now, as much of a pain as it is, is the whole idea is this is going to help commerce. So we can do those things. I think there's a lot on that list that really is an infrastructure that we need to weed through. And then just a political problem I'll mention on this. The reason the Bears are having so much trouble getting this Arlington Heights thing done, and why it probably needs to be more of a generic business development thing and not a Bear-specific program, is because what they are asking, put it this way, it's very hard in Springfield to pass a bill without Chicago-based legislators voting for it, because there's so many Chicago-based legislators. There's 28 state reps and 15 state senators who live in the city of Chicago. So to them, the Bears deal is give this high-profile company a tax credit so they can move out of the city you represent, okay? No state legislator has done that anywhere ever. We give tax credits to businesses to get them to move here, to get them to stay in place. No state legislature anywhere in the country has ever voted to say, here's a tax credit, now leave. It just doesn't happen. So that's the Bears have in Illinois at the core have a political math problem in Springfield. And the only way I think to solve it is to do a big picture economic development sort of proposal that anyone can benefit from, including them.
Anything else? One more question? Yeah.
I'm Louise Center with CTF Illinois. We're a nonprofit that serves intellectuals with disabilities up the road. I just want to thank Mary and Bell. We're actually heading back down to Springfield to get HB 1843 out and done out of the Senate. It passed the House. We're just going to finish it up, but that bill in particular that Mary and Bell have helped us with is there's a lot of leftover laws in the state of Illinois that say not more than 2 women with different last names can live under the same roof. And we open group homes so that adults can live independently and they're be contributing to society and part of our communities. And so what happens is when we want to open one of these group homes in a town that has these laws left over, we're unable to do that. We have to sue these townships. We always win because of ADA. So it wastes their money and it wastes our money. And the benefit of having these adults in these houses is it saves taxpayer dollars. When these houses are in good environments for people, there's less of a overhead for the state to pay than when they're in a state transitional facility. It's a better environment, so the average tax per person is $230,000 that we pay. When they're in a group home, that number goes down to about $95,000. So it's a win-win for these people. If you can't look at it from an area of compassion, you can look at it from a taxpayer perspective. It saves Illinois money, which sounds like something that we want. So thank you for your work. I'll see you down in Springfield, and we'll hopefully get it.
We're so happy to help, and this is just an example on how we can help. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us. I'm also a visual learner, so I'd love to come and see things. So anybody that wants me,
Yeah.
we
We're
love that
suckers
stuff
for
too. We are
tours.
suckers for tours, and I love it.
One more question?
Yeah, I just wanted to say this is a pleasure to be here. My name is Sarah Brown. I'm actually an accountant. I should be in my office right now. It's tax season, but this, being a part of a business community is very vital, and it's very vital these days in business. I'm also a part of, I'm actually a board member of another chamber. I'm a resident here in Orland Park. But I want to just say thank you to the legislators that's up front, because I do follow, as a business owner, I follow what they support. And I think as a small business owner, if you're here locally or somewhere in the Southland area, get acquainted with a lot of your certifications. There's a lot of set-aside opportunities that I know Mary Gill is in support of. And just a lot of things, right? So we can't just do business the same way we were doing business post-COVID. We gotta stretch out, right? And so if you're not familiar with state opportunities, get familiar with it, because there's different certification requirements and those sorts of things, and this opportunity that they're not just gonna give it to you, right? You gotta look for it and make sure you qualify for it. So thank you for your time. That's it.
Wanted to mention is that there was a bill. Are there insurance agents here? I'm sure I've heard from. I'm sure we've heard from so many of our insurance agents, and this just goes to show that we promise we're listening, right? But there is a bill that came up about insurance, and long and short of it, right, is really it would it's supposed to lower insurance rates, which we're for. We would like to see that for everybody, right? But I think in the fine lines wasn't going to do that, and we heard from so many of our insurance agents from here in Orland, and so we did not vote for that bill, and the bill did not pass, so it's still being worked on. But it just goes to show we do listen, and the point is that, like, you know, it's not for nothing to reach out to us when you see something that you don't like, or we listen. So we're so happy to be here, and my daughter plays for a club out here in Orland, so I spend 3 nights a week out here in Orland. So yep, I spend all my money. So if I would love to visit all of your shops too. So let me know. I probably have. I try to visit something different every night I'm out here, because I'm such a big small business supporter, and I love going into small businesses. So let me know if you're open at night, because I'm there. Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, sir.
All right, and then for closing remarks, I am going to turn the mic over to Mayor Jim Dodge.
Thanks, Sarah. I'll keep this really quick. So first and foremost, thank you to Bill, thank you to Mary. It's not often in the papers, but the working relationship the mayors in their districts have, excuse me, with their state legislators is just critical, right? There's always things coming through Springfield that impact municipalities, so we're keeping an eye on that. We communicate to them regularly. You know, we have a number of lobbyists because we can't possibly be in Springfield enough. And so just a huge debt of gratitude to Bill and Mary and the rest of our delegation in Springfield, the openness to listening to what we have to say and thinking about it. So again, thank you for being here. It matters a lot. It's appreciated. I'll be very quick, because I think everybody wants to get back to work, or would you guys rather sit here and chat? You know, is this like an earned, is this an earned absence or an excused absence? We can kind of keep going for a while. But just a couple of very brief comments. You probably keep an eye on the news. There's a lot going on in Orland. We're making a lot of progress. One big one that I want to highlight, and we had help from our state legislative team broadly, is for years the Southwest Highway and 143rd Street intersection was stuck. And we just cleared some hurdles with a lot of work from a lot of people to get the multiple millions of dollars we needed to start construction on that one soon. So we're gonna try and keep going after the road project. So again, tip of the hat to the state legislators for helping on that one. So that's kind of one big day in the life thing. I just caught a part of it, Bill, so I apologize. The idea of different forms of tax incentives, like I think Star Bonds you said. I love that program because in some ways, a lot of the suburbs out here, Tinley Park, Orland Park, have done things like that over time. We're happy to incentivize business development in Orland and share sales tax. Our first successful TIF, we paid it off early by Orland Park kicking in sales tax. So it's a great economic development tool, and then it benefits everybody. So good to hear that the state's formalizing that. And then obviously, everybody's probably heard about the Amazon thing. You know, right? And so more than happy to take some questions about that. If there's anything that's top of mind, I know there's another announcement recently where Amazon said they're changing things up with Fresh and Whole Foods. More than happy to take any questions about what we thought about, what we did, what we expect. Any questions on Amazon or anything else with the village? Trying to be mindful of everybody's time, so you gotta have some questions. Shoot.
I know there's been a lot of pros and cons about the potential, but I can tell you that I think it's a game changer for this town. And while Orland Park is going to directly benefit, I think the entire southwest side of Chicago is going to be impacted. So congratulations on being that created.
Appreciate you saying that, because one of the things that, again, this is one of those nuances that might not be immediately obvious in something in the Patch or the Tribune. We have a responsible bidder ordinance, and what goes along with that is preference for union labor because unions have apprenticeships. Now, how many kids have you talked to these days where college is not such a great option and are thinking about going into the trades? While simultaneously the whole country is saying, we need people to build things. We need people to keep things running. So we're kind of thrilled that that's come together with Amazon, and they're pretty committed to going down the pathway. And so on my math, right, round numbers, $250 a square foot just to bring a building out of the ground these days, that's a $70 to $75 million investment just in the building. Just in the building. And when you think about all the benefits that cascade into the schools, and then the jobs. So a lot of the trades members live in Orland and Tinley and other parts of town, so there's an immediate benefit there. You're gonna have 500 permanent jobs. And I think Amazon's pretty well known for the technology, so I love the idea that that's gonna potentially be a great place for younger people that wanna go work in a high-tech industry to work right there. So appreciate your comments, and we're thrilled about what that could mean. Okay, that's it. That was an easy question. And I didn't pay him to do it, right? I swear. Go ahead, sir.
Earlier you mentioned that the data centers were coming to like northern Illinois, and so maybe that could be something that comes to Orland maybe in the future, something like that. But I guess my question is, how do, because I was just looking at like Memphis and how they have data centers, but their water can't be recycled. Like, how does one stay ethical to the people in Orland to make sure that that doesn't happen?
Yeah, did everybody hear the question about data centers and how do you do this well or ethical and sensitively for the environmental impacts? I personally am a big fan of the potential for data centers, but current state, if you don't have enough power, they're a problem, which is why you wind up with designs that have a lot of localized natural gas fired turbines, generators, the whole shot to make sure you've got the reliability. And on the other side, you also have water, right? You get a potential huge consumption of water. Well, the good news is we're better suited for that than, let's say, Arizona, but we gotta kind of get through some of the permitting issues. So as this thing starts to emerge, they are hugely productive for the local entities from a tax perspective, right? They really do throw off a lot of revenue for a local town, local school, local township. But that doesn't mean we can be ignorant of the net impacts of having one of these things in town. So that's painting with the big brush. Painting with the smaller brush, is I have a pretty deep inner nerd, and so I probably spend an honest 10% of my work week just trying to keep up with AI and technology. And for all of us in this room, this is a good news, hopefully good news, but potentially challenging news perspective. The inner loop of AI is accelerating. And what I mean by that is the chips are getting faster, smarter, and better with less energy consumption. Cool. The software is now starting to recursively learn and make itself better into and of itself. And there's also new technologies at the hyperscalers. I think Microsoft is leading on this one. They're far more efficient about recycling their own water, and not necessarily doing evaporation. So they're changing the way they do the cooling. Would love to see that all get fixed in the next year or two, and I'd love to put one in Orland Park for a whole bunch of reasons. But I have no illusions that will be an easy public discussion. Yeah. Because much like what you saw with Amazon, I'm paraphrasing Mark Twain, because I don't think I can get the quote exactly right. A lie can get halfway around the world before the truth can get its boots on. I think I'm pretty close on that one. And so in this modern era, someone could say something that is genuinely misinformed. They simply don't know an answer to a question. And it goes on social media, and then the algorithms feed it, and then it spirals, and then you're off to the races with, what's the technical term of my business? Bullshit? Right, so that's a non-trivial problem, is we kind of as a community think about, well, how do you want to finish Orland? What's your strategic intent? Where do you want to go? And so I'm hopeful that the process we just came through with Amazon, where the truth eventually got out there about what it is and what it isn't, and the net positive as opposed to the downsides. I hope we can have a similarly informed, thoughtful community discussion on AI. Yeah, they can be big. They're not necessarily the prettiest buildings, and they might be a little loud. Well, okay. Well, tell that to your neighbor who's hoping for that miracle drug that solves the 1 in a million condition. That workload where the pharmaceutical companies are banging through all those algorithms to kind of test the molecules, that could be happening 20 feet down the road. So there's a whole bunch of stuff with data centers, and so keep us posted on what you think if this emerged. So far, nobody's knocking on our door, but again, broadly, they can be on balance positive. A whole lot of thinking we got to do. Sure. Does that make sense? It was a long answer to a short question. I apologize.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
So, anything? Those are two big ones. Amazon, data centers. Do we want skyscrapers? What else are we looking for? But I guess I'll wrap up, and I'm happy to stay in chat. I do apologize. I was on a call for my consulting business. One of the things we're working on aggressively in Orland Park is how do we use AI to improve our service so that we can do more with the same or less money with an eye towards tax reduction. That's what we're working on. And then if you're a retail center, somebody pulled the ordinance for me the other day. 1971, handwritten in Ordinance 476, I think it was. They annexed hundreds of acres. Some of it went to housing, some of it was a pig farm, almost all of it became Orland Square Mall. So decades ago, the Orland Park Board put itself on a trajectory to be a retail center. And so as mayor with the current board and with Dina and some of the other trustees, we're trying to make sure that we stay healthy, positive, and growing as a community, because we are a retail center in the southwest suburbs. Okay, well that kind of narrows what you focus on. And that's one of the things that we're trying to do, is make sure we stay focused on this as a healthy business climate and not tax the hell out of everybody. Any other questions, comments, no snide remarks?
Can my wife return Amazon merchandise?
Yeah. So now, Bill, is this a financial question where you want to offload some of your credit card bills? Well, then, Lucas, but that's an interesting question, because, and Amazon hasn't said this, but I have a pretty good expertise in retail because of what I did for a living when I was at the Nielsen Corporation. They are changing their business model, and I think Amazon wants to be closer to customers. So they would love you to come in and do a return, because the chances are high she's walking out with something else. And I guess, just a quick question, I'm guessing, right, if historical trends apply, do most of the women in this room do the primary shopping for your household? Yes. All right, see a whole bunch. How many of you have been blocked or irritated by the Instacart shoppers blocking you in an aisle? Right? And so where I'm going with that one is, you know, Amazon wants you in the store, in my opinion, to do the returns and maybe buy something else. They're also not gonna have Instacart, DoorDash, or whatever, you know, whatever service your retailer's offering in the aisleways blocking you. They're trying to change the retail experience. That's how they're gonna compete. And so, yeah, so they'll take returns, Bill. And thank you for shopping Orland. Can everybody give the Senator a good round of applause for shopping Orland? So yeah, so they're changing the business model. It'll be interesting to see how they experiment. We're very hopeful. We've got some questions about, is it going to impact small business? Through negotiations, the village required them to put in outlots. So there's room for small businesses right on the periphery of 159 and LaGrange. So good luck to those people who can get in line first to get that retail space, because you're going to have a hell of a lot of customers crossing your in front of your store every day. Amen. I'm happy to stick around. I love talking about Orland. So like Mary and Bill like talking about the state. But thank you for the questions. And if, as standing offer, if anything comes up where it's not clear or you're not sure or there's a question, there's a dozen different ways to reach us at the village, and we're pretty diligent about trying to respond to all of the requests. Okay. Thank you for sticking around.
All right, so thank you so much for our speakers, and that concludes our January membership meeting. We will regroup again next month. Again, these are always the fourth Wednesday of every month at noon with different speakers and different sponsors for our lunch. If you guys do want to kind of hang out, network, by all means, please do. We are not kicking you out, but we also understand that you have to go back to your busy schedules. So again, thank you so much for coming out, and enjoy the rest of your week.